Alright guys, I'm going to be talking about my disgraceful home state of Florida. A little while ago, it made the headlines because a big, brand new immigrant detention facility slash death camp, they will be death camps eventually if they're not already, so might as well get ahead on that, was opened up there in the Everglades, and it has been nicknamed Alligator Alcatraz for the fact that it is an island in the middle of the Everglades full of gators and also crocodiles, fun fact. If you try to swim away from it, you'll probably get chomped because alligators are mean and they actually will hunt people, unlike sharks. So, pretty scary stuff. It's genuinely scarier, more like Crocschwitz. Scarier than actual Alcatraz, in my opinion. I would rather swim across the San Francisco Bay from Alcatraz to shore in that, like, frigid, cold, shark-infested Pacific water before I'd want to swim through the swamps of Florida with all the gators and leeches and silt and alligator snapping turtles trying to take your balls off. That all aside, Alligator Alcatraz is about as inhumane and insane as you can imagine. This is the kind of stuff you expect in, like, a black site, not on American soil, but now that Trump's in office, things that you could never get away with in America before are now happening openly with people's approval. You know what's kind of disappointing, though? Alligator Alcatraz is just kind of off to the side of the road. Like, it's not even... It's in, like, a drier, sandier part of the Everglades. It's not even in a part surrounded by water. Like, they're gonna have to dig a big-ass moat and fill it with alligators. Or just leave it there until alligators, like, get in it. They will eventually find it. But, I don't know. Like, the whole point of it being Alligator Alcatraz is kind of destroyed by the fact that it doesn't really look too swampy outside of it. But let's see what the deal is here. Maybe we gotta get a closer look. This is a tour of Alligator Alcatraz from a month ago, which will be relevant to this story. So, if you already know about this stuff, then just hang in there.
Today, Florida lawmakers and some members of Congress toured a controversial new immigration detention center in Florida amid humanitarian concerns over the site. The Trump administration has dubbed the facility Alligator Alcatraz since it's located deep in the marshy wetlands of the Everglades, surrounded by dangerous wildlife. CNN's Rafael Romo is joining us right now. What more can you tell us about the tour? Did it happen?
I guess the idea is that, like, to get to civilization, you have to go through swamp, but my idea of what Alligator Alcatraz would be is exactly what I've seen from people's own properties out on the coast, on the west coast of Florida, where you've got, like, salt flats full of alligators and bull sharks, and then you've got, like, a single dirt path that makes, like, a dirt bridge that is surrounded by water on all sides that just extends out into the salt flats, and, or not the salt flats, but like the flats. And then there's like an island, like a square-shaped island with a house on it, a driveway, a boat dock, like all their patio furniture and stuff. And they basically have like a normal plot-sized house that's just a quarter mile out into the swamp. And you have to drive across a land bridge, a narrow land bridge with swamp on either side, with no railings or anything, on a dirt road to get out to their driveway. Like, I assumed it would be like that. Like, there is one single non-swamp alligator-infested path to get in and out of this place. But they phoned it in. They phoned it in. They didn't follow through on the concept of what Alligator Alcatraz was supposed to be, in my humble opinion. I'm calling it out, all right?
And are they getting access? And then what are they seeing?
Well, they get in. That much we know, and they're slowly coming out and making their statements. But this is something that happened because after being denied access to the immigrant detention facility, several Florida state lawmakers sued Governor Ron DeSantis and his director of the Florida Department of Emergency Management, Kevin Guthrie.
Ron DeSantis is such a smug little fucking prick. Like, he thinks he's Donald Trump, but he's more like Ted Cruz. And I really need him to, like, get put in his place. You know, just to get, like, I don't know, humiliated by Trump at some point. Like even harder than he did during the primaries. Just, I really hate DeSantis, and I want to see him, like, dejected. You know what I mean?
Who runs the site. In the lawsuit, the legislators say they have the legal right to have unannounced access to all the facilities recently built at the Dade Collier Training and Transition Airport, dubbed the Alligator Alcatraz Detention Center, adding
So
that both
cringe.
DeSantis and Guthrie, quote, have exercised the governor's emergency powers beyond their authority. The Florida Division of Emergency Management agreed to host a tour of the facility today between 11 a.m. and 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time, but only for Florida state legislators and members of Congress. Lawmakers like Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz, a Democrat, say they have heard from relatives of those detained, as well as immigrant rights groups, that the detainees are enduring things like bugs in their food, an infestation of mosquitoes, sleeping with the lights on, and not getting access to an attorney. This is what Congresswoman...
I believe all those things, particularly the first two. As someone who has been to many cookouts in Florida, if you do not find a way to effectively cover any food that you, like, leave out for even a second, it will get covered in flies and bugs of all kinds, because it's food, and every square foot of air in Florida is full of bugs. There's not a single square foot of oxygen you can find in Florida that does not have bugs flying in it. You will inhale bugs every day if you go outside in Florida. That's just how it is. So I definitely believe that. They are not, it's like tents. They're keeping people in tents. So I totally believe the food is full of bugs. It might even have maggots in it, depending on how badly they're taking care of it. And I also totally believe they're dealing with nonstop mosquitoes. You know, one mosquito can totally ruin a night of sleep. You know, like they're basically exposed to the mosquitoes more or less fully. Like, there's no way they've got a mosquito-proof, like, airlock seal on these tents. Like, those things are full of mosquitoes, and sleeping in that thing with the lights on and mosquitoes biting you every time you stay still, it's got to be impossible. And I totally believe the idea they're not getting attorneys either. Like, the living standards seem to be awful there. And so, you guys probably know all of this. Nothing too surprising. Did they really not show any more footage of Alligator Alcatraz? Cringe! You guys probably know all of this, though there is even more to hear about. The detainees at Alligator Alcatraz are currently on a hunger strike, apparently, because the conditions there are so unbelievably bad. They would rather starve to make a point and have things possibly change than continue to deal with it. So here is some audio we're getting on the topic from NBC.
¿Alguien puede interesar esto? Si a las personas no, le voy a explicar. Yo me llamo Pedro Reinaldo Loreto Concepción.
That's the voice of Pedro Hernandez. He's on the phone with his wife, calling from so-called Alligator Alcatraz. He said he was talking to anybody that was listening. Whoever can help us with what's going on here, we've all been hungry since Tuesday, Pedro says. He arrived from Cuba in the United States in 2006. He was arrested 4 years later and got a deportation order. In July, during a routine visit to ICE in Miramar, the feds scooped him up. It was the last time his wife saw him. My husband was in prison. We make mistakes, but we learn from them and fix things, Damaris Hernandez says. Thursday, she shared Pedro's plea for help from what he describes as deplorable conditions. It's also day 9 with no food. He's on a hunger strike with other detainees.
A hunger strike
I'm not
over
going
the
to eat
conditions.
another plate of food until they show us respect, Pedro said. Meanwhile,
Florida is struck an unholy.
I think it's worth noting, by the way.
show us respect, Pedro said.
I listen to a lot of podcast bros, and I know that this isn't the best way to understand the political opinions of most Americans, but there's no polling on things this specific. Even the majority of Americans, or even a majority of the Americans who cheer for mass deportation, don't seem to be that thrilled about the cages and detention facilities. The rhetoric and idealized execution of these policies by most people that voted for them is just get them out. It's why they celebrate for the videos of the people in chains getting shipped off to where is it? Fucking I forget what country he's sending them to, like Venezuela or whatever. Like they cheer for that. They're not too thrilled about this, because this is us spending federal tax dollars. El Salvador, thank you. We're spending federal tax dollars on these cages, on the electricity, on this construction, on feeding these people. And while they shouldn't even be in cages or getting deported at all, even those that are in favor of the deportations, they want them gone. Not in cages, not getting fed by U.S. tax dollars. They want them gone immediately, fast-tracked out of America. So this particular way of doing the deportations, I don't know if it's going to be that popular. A lot of the podcast bros I've seen have been a little iffy, not outright opposed, but iffy on the idea of these camps, because it seems like an unnecessary and costly extra step to the mass deportations having happened. That's the problem they have with it too, not the fact that we're ruining people's lives, but that it costs money. Specifically, it costs what they see to be their money, right? Yeah, these are not people who think or act or vote with empathy. Keep that in mind. We have to get through to people that lack empathy and convince them with arguments that do not in any way hinge on the idea of helping other people, convince them that they should vote left, or at least not vote conservative. You have to convince narcissists who do not care about helping other people or making the world better for other people. You have to convince them that it is in their best interest, because that's all they care about, to not vote for Trump. That is the main struggle the left is having. Too much of their rhetoric is empathy-focused. Trump thrives on the audience of people in America, a massive audience of people who lack empathy. We have to be able to speak to empathyless people and convince them.
Said. Meanwhile,
Florida has struck an unholy bargain with the Trump administration.
Democrats in Coconut Grove held an emergency town hall denouncing the conditions at the detention center.
And so when people are forced into these tent cities with substandard conditions, we're going to see people irreparably harmed, not only for due process, but people are not getting their medication, they're not getting food, they're not getting hygiene, they're not being able.
See, this rhetoric will not move most Trump supporters, but the idea that they are wasting their tax dollars on feeding and housing these people instead of just fast-tracking them to El Salvador for deportation and getting them out of here for as little cost as possible, that is what will convince Trump supporters that Trump is fucking up.
To use the showers.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking.
So yeah, Alligator Alcatraz has been a nightmare so far, but that shouldn't surprise you. This is, for most of you, it won't be anything new, but as of today, we got some pretty startling info. Records show that Florida is prepping for a second immigration detention facility at Camp Blanding. That's right, Alligator Alcatraz 2 is in the works. Florida is preparing a second immigration detention center, which is already being labeled in public records as the North Detention Facility. The Florida Department of Emergency Management, the state agency in charge of South Florida Detention Facility in the Everglades, is purchasing a weather stem, and 2 lightning sirens for the facility, according to a state contract for $39,490. This is getting out of hand. Now there are 2 of them. The weather stem, a portable emergency response weather station, and the lightning sirens were bought to enable real-time weather monitoring and safety alerting for staff, according to the comments in the contract. So they're basically buying more equipment to expand this facility and make it into like a super facility made up of multiple detention facilities. Like, it seems like they're just going to transform a massive tract of land in the Everglades into a giant death camp for immigrants. In response to questions about their involvement, WeatherStem's CEO Ed Mansouri said in a text message to the USA Today Network Florida that his company is proud to provide technologies to the Florida Division of Emergency Management designed to help mitigate the risks of weather-related deaths or injuries due to lightning, high heat, etc., of which there are many in Florida, and we are at their service to locate them whenever We're at their service to locate them wherever they're needed. So they're like, yeah, who cares? You know, we'll sell to anyone. We'd literally furnish concentration camps with our weather systems. Fuck you. WeatherStem is a Florida company, of course, headquartered in Tallahassee, of course. Questions for FDEM are still pending. On August 1st, DeSantis said the federal government has deported over 600 people from the South Florida detention facility, but there still weren't concrete plans to open a second detention facility, which officials have stated will be at Camp Blanding in Clay County. If it's not leading to real significant cadence and removals, then I'm going to wait, DeSantis said. Now I have confidence that it will, and I think it will eventually, and once that happens, then we'll go, and Kevin Guthrie is ready. Guthrie is the director of FDEM. The state has received criticism from immigration advocates, Democrats, and environmentalists for housing immigrants in the Everglades during hurricane season, as the tents used for detainees can only withstand up to a Category 2 hurricane. I don't believe they can handle a tropical storm. Quote, I've taken a little bit of heat in the media that the EM guy is not taking care of hurricane season, said Guthrie at a press conference on July 25th. That is absolutely, unequivocally false. And Guthrie has said the state will evacuate if there is a storm above a Category 2. I promise you that the hurricane guys got the hurricane stuff covered, Guthrie said. The Camp Blanding plans have also drawn fire. Last month, hundreds gathered to protest outside what is expected to become the state's second detention facility. According to First Coast News, some people were seen holding up signs reading ICE equals racism in a uniform. Quote, we need FEMA, not death camps. Quote, no to deportations. And quote, Ron DeSantis, we are watching. Camp Blanding is a training site for the Florida National Guard near Starkey. It has an airfield, which the state plans to use to remove detained immigrants to their countries of origin, and is expected to hold 2,000 detainees. The airstrip, however, is shorter than the runway at the South Florida Detention Facility, also known as Alligator Alcatraz. DeSantis said the state is looking at using Cecil Airport in Jacksonville, which has one of the longest runways in Florida at 12,500 feet. As previously reported, the state has identified, quote, several brick-and-mortar locations in northeast and south central Florida that could serve as detention centers, according to the state's blueprint for mass deportation. In May, officials unveiled a 37-page plan called the State of Florida Immigration Enforcement Operations Plan that they say will be the model for immigration enforcement across the country. Besides the South Florida Detention Facility and Camp Blanding, however, it is unknown where any other detention centers would be located. The South Florida Detention Facility in the Everglades has a capacity of 3,000 with room to expand to 5,000 detainees. And the U.S. Department of Homeland Security has recently started to fly detainees to Immigration and Customs Enforcement detention centers for removal from the United States. While the state operates the detention facility, the removal of undocumented immigrants is under federal jurisdiction. Over the past 2 years, Camp Blanding has received more than $150 million for improvements to meet National Guard Bureau Garrison Level 2 requirements. This year, the state allocated $16.5 million in the budget for more upgrades, including expanding bed space, adding classroom facilities, and improving infrastructure such as the railhead and wash rack. I understood what all those words meant, and if you say otherwise, I'll get mad. So, Yeah. Not only is Alligator Alcatraz as much of a nightmare as you could possibly expect it to be, but because of the quote-unquote success of Alligator Alcatraz, DeSantis and Florida Republicans are already working to make its much-dreaded infamous sequel. We are watching the Nazification of America. It's happening. We're building the death camps. Americans are looking the other way. Many are cheering for it. And those that oppose it can't really do much of anything to stop it. This is how the Nazification of any country, including Nazi Germany, happens. This is how it happened. This is how it'll happen in America if it ever goes all the way. These are scary times, folks. Hold your loved ones closely. And, just be ready. okay? Just be ready. All I can say is the best way that you can spite conservatives in these times is to survive. Many people have said this, but I'll repeat it again. The best way to spite conservatives, to win in times like this, is to survive. So focus on being here in 3 years, being here to potentially see better times to come. Anyway, folks, if you enjoyed this segment, if you found it entertaining, enjoyable, educational in any way whatsoever, then please consider leaving a like and a comment down below on this video or stream if you're watching it live right now. Likes and comments are totally free and they really help to boost the channel and the algorithm, and right now the channel's in a rough spot, so you guys supporting it is more important now than ever. So hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that comment button. I really appreciate it, all you guys. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. Be a liker, not a lurker, or at least be a liking lurker, or a lurking liker, whichever you prefer. And of course, if you want to see more from me in the future, you want to support the channel and be able to get notified when I go live or upload new videos in the future, and you don't want to miss out on every week when I host gaming events, call-in streams, watch parties, and movie nights in my Discord server on Fridays, then please join my Discord through the link down below. It is much appreciated if you do that. You don't want to miss anything? That is the place to be. And of course, finally, if you want to support me directly, financially, help me keep the lights on and a roof above my head here at the Xander Hall studio, then please consider donating, subscribing, or gifting a sub to someone else on my website, xanderhall.com/live, or support me financially through YouTube, Twitch, Streamlabs, Stream Elements, Patreon, or buy some custom Xander Hall merchandise through the Streamlabs link down below in the description. Regardless of how you support me, though, thank you all so much for watching, and as always, have a good one.